And you just had your first listing and have it under contract.
Yeah.
Right.
Congrats. Love that. Thanks, Garrett. I've been in the industry 4 years now. Something that's working really well right now is the nurturing that I've been doing the past couple of years. I have a lot of children on the roads. The struggle would be having clients be realistic.
Oh, I like that. With pricing or with what?
Everything. You have pricing, you have, yeah, I guess pricing would probably be the biggest.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Garrett.
I'm Pat, and I've been licensed since 2015, but this is my second year in business. So my challenge would be managing my finances during peace and panic. And what's going really well, I would say actually right now getting buyers under agreement is going really well.
Okay. Like signed buyers agencies?
No, like
Just getting them
getting
into property.
They're also accepted
Good.
and under agreement. Yeah.
Love it. Is it KAT?
Okay.
You're up.
Yeah, I'm Lucy. I've been in the business since 2016. What's challenging is, you said we went by the interest rates.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be, oh, it's not doing it. 5 people.
Love that. 5 people. You got business from, or they're just in contact with. That's great. Congrats.
Crystal, I've only been in the business for a few months.
Hey, anything that's a big struggle or going well?
Like confident, have a conversation.
It's going well or a struggle?
It's strong.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that day.
Yeah.
I love that. Perfect. All right, let's go back over here.
My name is Davin. I've been in the business for about a year now. One thing I think is going well for me is my consistency. Doing my daily activities.
Daily lead gen.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I guess struggle would be finding those solid leads, like people who are actually committed.
Motivated leads, same as Mona. Actually, same challenge as Mona. I'm gonna keep saying it.
My name is Marcus. I've been in the business for less than a month now. I haven't had too much struggles. I'm just trying to figure out a good schedule for myself. Just hoping everything goes well. And
So just time management, get the right time management and schedule.
I'm Rachel. I was licensed less than a month ago, and my biggest struggle, I would say, is any team. So most of my friends are in college, so they're not looking for real estate or anything, and most of my family has already settled down and bought their homes. So I work full time, so I reach out to my other coworkers. So in that middle space there.
Yeah.
That's where my most of my talk is.
Congrats for starting early. Yeah, when I started, I was not much older than you, and I looked like I was 14. So I had a challenge with my age for sure. Next one.
My name's Madison. I've been licensed for about 3 months. And my biggest struggle would probably be like kind of the same with her, like being on the younger side, not really having any like active leads that are looking right now.
Okay. All right.
My name is Sean, and I'm
Sean, is
really
that S-H-A-U-N?
S-E-A-N.
It's like 50.
Yeah, there's a lot of us. We're taking the world over one Sean.
Yeah.
But I'm brand new. I mean, maybe a month being licensed. I work at Ashley's Furniture and I run a martial arts studio.
Okay. Don't
So,
mess with you.
so my idea is I'll get my business cards pretty soon.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be able to network a lot with my parents and the clients I run into at Ashley's.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
I
Any
kinda-
big challenge?
I think just getting through these first initial motions, making sure that all my fees are paid and stuff, and that everything's set up correctly, business wise.
Okay.
Really all I'm concerned about.
Initial income gap. Okay.
Hi, my name is Michael. I've been in the business since May. What went well is I worked my year as soon as I got licensed.
Nice.
Ended up with 2 deals.
Of course you did when you worked your sphere.
Yeah. So that went well, although they were not fun to work. Garrett can Garrett knows, and I think even Kat knows, I think we're not fun.
Understand?
But we got them.
You learned your lessons early?
Yes.
Yeah. Challenge?
Challenges is trying to find more. I'm doing the cold calling and all that.
Yeah. So third time we've heard leads. Good.
Mike, what's your background before this?
I was a home inspector.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
I'm Rochelle. I've been in business for 1 year.
Can you help me to spell
It's RACHELLE.
it? Perfect.
Thing that's going well, I sold 10 houses in my first year, and they were like decently priced, so that's
Good
good.
job.
But, I think the challenge,
Rochelle, how'd you do that?
just talking to people.
Who?
I have a second business.
Okay.
People I know, just telling anybody.
Your
people-
spirit, people that you
Like
know.
Sphere, people at the thing, anybody.
People that
I
you
run
don't
into.
know.
You talk to neighbors.
So my first sale was,
Grocery
somebody was looking in a window 2 doors down from my house. It was for sale. I just went up to them and I said, hey, I'm a realtor. Do you want to see it? And he ended up, I showed him the house. He didn't buy that one. He bought another one in the neighborhood. So
Yes.
just talking to people.
I love
mean, it takes courage because it's not comfortable, but it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah,
So-
good.
And I have a second business, so
Okay.
I also talk to people with that and the connection. I'm an artist, so I have an art business.
Okay.
And that connection definitely, people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I use that as my kind of, the connection rather than just business.
Yeah, I get it.
So
Good job. What's your challenge?
challenge is definitely having structure. I'm not a structured person, so I know what I need to be doing. I like going out and I like having, effective, lead gen by talking to people face to face, art in art scene and everything.
Yeah.
But just doing everyday daily things. is probably-
Right. So keeping maybe time management and.
Yeah,
okay.
definitely.
Hi, my name is Marie. Been in the business for 27 years. I think that my biggest struggle was keeping up with technology and also finding lead generating companies that are not scam. And I have 100 bio leads right now, so I'm working on those good parts.
So paid lead gen is a challenge, finding paid lead gen that works for you.
That is legit.
Yeah. So we're
There
going
are some
from-
out there that are not.
Yes, we're going from prospecting based to marketing based, and we're gonna talk about that in detail today, so that's a good one. Yeah,
Okay, so, what's working? My name is Hooke, and I've been in the business since 2017, so about 7 years.
yeah,
And, what's working for me is my sphere is absolutely, embraced
Nice
me
job.
as a realtor. So I'm very grateful for that, and I've got a great referral, repeat, sort of business that's going on. I just found out today that I'm not reaching and growing my business like in leaps and bounds, and maybe I might be a little lazy.
I kind of.
Not being lazy. So, but the other thing is I did try the 72 sold, which was like cold calling for me, which was a culture shock for me. So it did school me on how hard that is
Sure,
for people that are going into the business.
Yeah.
It really did kind of give me an education in regard to doing that sort of business. So my hats off to everybody who goes out and cold calls and goes and
Yeah.
comes, and you don't know the people, so you don't have that warm sort of introduction. What I need to work on, or what isn't working for me is perhaps so I'm investing and I move too slow on my investment properties. Like
Okay.
I can like walk away from them for like 2 months at a time, and for me, that's lost income. And why do I do that? I don't know.
too slow on filling vacancies, is that what you're talking about?
Too slow on finishing what I need to finish. Or, if I run into a hiccup with a contractor
I see,
and I need another contractor, then I'm slow at getting that because I'm trying to, keep my business going
Yeah.
over here. And, so if I divide myself, what do I give up? Do I give up a little bit of income I'd be getting here, or maybe a big commission over here? So I choose my commissions.
over that, so you let that business go a little bit.
Right, so
Yeah.
I've got 2 investment properties, they're just not like costing me anything. Like,
Yeah.
It's like, and there's a cash flow on the one, so it's not it's not horrible, it's not costing me anything, but it's costing, you know what I mean?
I hear you, yeah, there's an opportunity cost,
I-
okay,
I
good.
need to learn a little bit more about how to do that better, or,
We're gonna talk about a piece of that today, actually, on the second phase of my business, I struggle with the same things.
Matt, I've been in the business 8 years. Biggest struggle is definitely sharing an office with David Becker.
Yeah.
Really?
Not
Not just sharing a house.
Sharing a house, I can't imagine. No, biggest struggle for me is definitely when it's busy season, is continuing to do those, the things that we know we all need to do, but we put on the back burner as we're, chasing the deals. What works for me is like Ruth said, and, keep it simple, work the sphere. I mean, when I got right back to basics, business took off a lot more. So
Yeah.
work the sphere.
Awesome.
And have a baby.
That's motivation.
Very good at
Yeah.
having babies.
Keep going.
I'm good at having babies. There you have it, everybody. All right, Karen.
Oh, I'm Karen Becker. We've been in business since 2014. And what's working well is I think that we've gotten to the point now where we've built our sphere that it's now feeding us. So
Yeah.
that's great. So the referrals and not really having to get out there and should still be doing that stuff too. But I find that it has definitely got easier once you
Getting some
really,
inbound
yeah,
business.
getting inbound business is definitely helpful. I guess something to struggle is I guess just obviously time management.
Yeah.
Which we've always talked about.
Cool.
Time management's not.
Good. Justin?
My name's Justin. I've been in the business 12 years. What's going well is a VIP program that I'm building that's seen multiple referrals from a small group of people, right? Multiple referrals from each of them.
I love that.
He's kicking butt.
The struggle is replacing myself in the things I don't want to be doing.
So some leverage.
Yeah.
Good.
Adrian Smith, been in the business since 2008. I don't know if that sounds better or 16 years. Either way, my struggle is East Shore agents taking my West Shore market share. Now it's
That's
No.
funny.
being top of
He's
mind,
joking.
keeping on top of my database, being on top of mind. It's the biggest struggle.
Great. All right, next.
Hi, my name's Chris and it's CHRIS.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome, no problem. I think the biggest thing that's going well in my business right now is I'm in year 6. I got licensed in 2018, and I'm starting to see the compounding positive effect of laying good roots
Yeah.
with my people. And that's starting to turn over for me pretty regularly now.
Yeah.
You know, in the last 24 hours, I've gotten 3 different calls from past clients, either setting me up with, new opportunities or people looking to make a move.
Yeah.
So I think kind of like the fruit of my labor is starting to kind of turn.
Yeah,
I'm starting to
similar to what Karen said.
Exactly.
Yeah, you've been in the business and you've been working your sphere, and now those inbound referrals are started to gain some momentum.
Right. And I think identifying like the proper pillars of business that I'm really good at has
Yeah.
helped me put my time in the right spot.
I love it.
So I tried, 20 different things and kind of narrowed down to like, okay, these 5 things I'm really good at: for sale by owner,
Yeah.
sphere of influence, past clients. So that really has helped me kind of take the next step in my career. And then struggle, I think I can kind of echo some of the time management. I have a lot of passion and drive and hustle for my career. And sometimes I know that I can stretch myself too thin. So I just need to make sure that I'm set myself up the right way and have the right support, backing me and helping me continue to scale and grow.
Okay.
And then some of the NAR stuff,
Yeah.
depending on the target audience and, who you're speaking with, some people are totally like pro good energy about it. And some people are a little doom and gloom.
Yeah.
And I think just getting the people who are doom and gloom educated and on the same page of there's opportunity here and we're going to provide the service regardless of what that looks like.
Yeah.
Is key.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
good.
Thank you.
So for time's sake, not because I don't love the people left, I want you just now, we're gonna say name and what your struggle is, so I can just capture it. The reason we do this is because the slides I'm gonna go through about my business journey has a lot of content in it. We could do a very long sort of camp out on a lot of different sections of this, but I want to be able to camp out on the areas that you guys have the biggest challenges. So we'll go next, name and just biggest challenge.
Hi, my name's Alyssa. It's ALYSSIA.
Yeah.
And I've been in the business for 3 years about, and my biggest struggle, like most of them, is probably the lead generation, finding high quality leads.
How much was your sale last year? The big one.
Well, that's still in the works.
Oh, that's not
but
closing,
it's-
the $2 million?
It is. Oh, yeah, it is.
Okay,
But It's in the works.
Okay, we're not talking about that. Knock on wood. Extract conversation. We didn't have a question, none of that happened.
Nancy, my biggest challenge is creating systems so I can consistently level my speed.
Systems, great. We're gonna talk about that, Nancy. All right, next one, name and challenge.
My name is Javon, that's J''VON. My biggest challenge right now is just like, getting leads and the confidence to actually really talk to them.
We're gonna talk about both of those today. Great, next one.
My name's Nick. Okay, my name's Nick, and probably the biggest thing is lead generation.
Pat, next one.
I'm Chris, I'm a lender, I'm not a realtor, but I work with a lot of these nice people in here. I'd say my biggest challenge is managing expectations around interest rates up and down.
Perfect, next one.
My name is Monica, my biggest challenge is generating the leads.
Leads. Thanks, Monica. Who didn't go? Raise your hand. You come in. Rich. Hey, Rich.
I'd say lead gen as well.
Pat? Up front,
I would say leverage
leverage.
and focusing my time on my top.
Just for those who don't know, Nate.
Sam,
Yep.
sorry. So leverage and then consistency in my top person aspect.
Hey, did anybody knock out?
Anna, my name's Anna. I'd say my biggest struggle is, balancing my whole career. I do have plans to come up time, but I'm sure it's getting a little hard where I can't concentrate on real estate and
So, time management focus. What are the one or two things that you guys saw most often as a struggle? Leads.
Time management.
Time management leads. Yeah. Guys, in real estate, like if I've had this, I started 20 years ago and in consulting conversations, we do a lot of coaching and stuff with some of the teams around the country. And we can write 30 problems on the board, but at the end of the day, they generally come down to time or money. They come down to how do I manage time or get more balance, or how do I earn more money? And ultimately, when we're talking about leads or time management, those are two things we're talking about. Doesn't mean there's not other problems, but you can see up here, I mean, you know, leads, finance management, that's money, leads, schedule, that's time, age is kind of time, income gap is money, leads is money, structured time management is time, paid leads is leads, that's money, investing has to do with money, lead gen is money, time management, that's time, leverage, that's time, and money, database, that's lead, that's money, time management, that's time, leads, that's money, systems SOI, that's lead, that's money, leads, that's money, leads, that's money, leads, that's money, leads, that's money, leverage, that's time, dual career, that's time. 90% of those were time and money. Same problem across the board. There's 1 million licensed agents in the country. The crux of their problem is time and money. And so I love to hear that because it's just honest answers, right? And so when we go over my story, hopefully we can talk a little bit about some of the struggles I have with time and money. And I promise you guys when I tell my story is that I'll be honest with you, so I won't sugarcoat anything. You'll hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. And my hope and prayer for you guys is over the next, hour or so that you guys can take something from that and maybe not make the same mistakes that I did in my journey. So we're going to start with the way that this talk is framed is that there's 4 phases of my business growth journey. So just a little bit about myself. David said at the beginning, I do have a real estate team. I haven't sold real estate to a client in almost 7 years. So if you asked me to write an offer, I wouldn't have the logins. I wouldn't know how to do it. I bought an investment property last month. I couldn't access showing time because I don't know how anymore. So I had to call an agent on my team to represent me. So it's that type of thing. So I'm not the guy probably to help you with forms or setting up showings or anything like that. But I do have a team, and I did go through over 20 years sort of all of the pain in launching and going through perseverance phase. We say there's 4 phases of the business journey. There's launch, there's perseverance, there's viability, and there's scale. And so I've been in that business in all of them. Right now, what I do with my time is I mostly consult. So I'm a shareholder of 6 real estate of 6 companies in the real estate space. The team is the one that most people hear of, but also the brokerage business, it's a title, then a property management company, a private money lending business, real estate portfolio, things like that, and a consulting and coaching business for teams and agents. And so I'm going to share in the 4 phases of business. We're really not going to talk about my other businesses. We're just going to talk about my real estate sales team because that's what's most applicable to this. And we're going to start with phase 1, which we're going to call 0 to 25 transactions. And we're going to spend the most time there because from what I can tell, most of us, probably 80% of us in the room are in 0 to 25. Raise your hand if you're doing under 25 transactions right now per year. Okay, perfect. Raise your hand if you're doing over 25. Okay, so yeah, about 4 or so. Mortgage guys doing over 11. Better, yeah, 4 or 5 doing over, the rest doing under. So we're going to spend the most time in 0 to 25. Even those of you who are doing over 25, hopefully you'll be able to take some stuff from what I learned during that phase of my business. And then we'll spend some time in the 25 to 50 transaction phase of my business. If there's time and you want to hear anything about the 3rd phase of my business, I didn't even put content in those slides, but it's like the 50 to 150. And then the 7th level side of my business would have been the last 5 years. That would be like 150 to 300 some units. Each section of business, there are different pain points in launching and doing your first couple of transactions than there are in doing the next couple. So the way the slides are broken down as we go through the 1st phase of my business, which is launch, 0 to 25, is we're going to talk about the pain that I was feeling. And then we're going to talk about, and I'll save you like the years that it took me to find a solution, but I'm going to talk about the 1 or 2 solutions that I found to the pain that I was feeling. The pain you're going to see is always related to time or money, just like you. And we're going to talk about the solutions that I found to solve the time or money problem in that phase. And that's where you guys could take some notes or ask some questions, and maybe there'll be some ahas in there. And then we'll go to phase 2. Does that sound good? Yeah.
Do you mind just recapping those 4 phases and the transactions for each again?
Yes. So we'll do the launch phase of my business, which is 0 to 25. The perseverance phase of my business, which is roughly 25 to 50 or 75. Viability phase of my business is where I get upwards of 100, 150 transactions. And then the scale phase of the business is just beyond that. And in the 4 phases of and that goes for any business, by the way. If you're a plumber or a contractor, you're going to launch your business. That's where you're sort of wearing all the hats in the business. And on an accountability chart, you would be doing everything from sales to operations, transaction coordination. You'd wear all the hats. And your biggest challenge is getting business in launch. Perseverance is you're still wearing all the hats, but you have a lot of business, and your biggest challenge is you're overworked and you're burning out. And most people, because perseverance is the 2nd phase of business, most plumbers, electricians, and real estate agents, over 95% of real estate agents in the country, they stay in perseverance for their whole career. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with perseverance. You can set up a real estate agent or a plumber or contractor's life to have an amazing career in the perseverance phase of the business. What you have to be careful of is it generally feels like that's not correct. Because it generally feels like this in perseverance. Matt mentioned that, where is he on here? Somewhere right here. Doing lead gen when he's too busy. When you're in perseverance and you have enough business but not enough time and you have no leverage, when you're busy, you're not doing any lead gen. And so then you get not busy and you get anxious. And so you're stressed to do lead gen. And then when you get busy, you're serving customers, so you don't have time to do lead gen. So then you get no business and you get anxious. So then you do lead gen. That's what perseverance looks like in any business in the United States. Small businesses, many contractors, electricians, private practice dentists, real estate agents, they'll live there for a long time. There's a way out. You'll see it in my business journey, but that's what it looks like. For the 3rd one, Pat, viability is when you step out of the production side of business. I'm no longer looking at homes with buyers, no longer meeting with sellers. I'm running an actual business. So I'm the sales director, marketing director, finance director, and now you have a viable business where other people are doing the production. And then scale is when you're in the owner's seat and somebody else is actually growing the business for you. They're waking up every day to grow the business. What was that?
I just said that's what I would do.
That's what he goes on. Yeah. So
Well, you married Dave.
did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, we have 2 hours here, so you guys, this is a conversation. You can interrupt as much as you guys want and just ask. All right. Where's second? There we go. Okay, share my lifeline second. All right, so here's the first one. Was trying to get busy in 0 to 25 transactions. So my problem was I was not busy. So raise your hand if leads and getting business is a problem. I have your names here, I noticed. Yeah, leads and getting busy. So when I was 21, 22, I started a real estate brokerage because I thought that'd be a great idea. I never sold a house before. And I started a real estate brokerage. My family had been in the business, but I had retired 13 years before in 1990. And it was like 2002, 2003. I was right out of college. And I had $7,000 to my name from working in college. I was a bartender in college. And I sold health insurance barely. And had a little bit of money. And so I got some partners. My dad had retired. He was an investor at that point, but he still had a broker's license. So he was our broker. He just didn't want to do anything. He definitely didn't want to log on to the internet. And the internet was like starting. There was like houses online. There was an MLS. For those of you who don't know, before the internet, right when I started, there was a book that printed all the houses out. And so you couldn't log on and see your competitors' listings. You had to wait once a month for the MLS book. It looked like a phone book. And it would have like a few listings on every page. And we would wait, like, because you would want to sell your own listings before the book got printed. That's how brokerage works. The last thing you wanted to do, we're in a whole new world now, is share your commission with your competitor. And when my dad was in business, you didn't share your commission with the competitor. The idea that you would do that was a new thing. So you would try to sell your own listing, and then when the book came out, all your competitors would see your listings, and then they would be calling you, and you would see your competitors' listings, and everybody would be like, "Oh, there's all this inventory all of a sudden available that we can show our buyers and sellers." So that was sort of the world that I started in, and my dad was the broker, and I had another business partner who still works with us today, and I went into the office that first summer. It was June, and our office was in an apartment in like a 150-year-old home in downtown Harlem. And I remember I had a desk, it was up against the wall. I had a real phone, not a cell phone. And I was so excited that we had registered with the Corporation Bureau and started connecting realtors. And I was like, this is going to be awesome. And I remember hanging the sign out in front of the office and going in every day. And I would sit there and I would look at the phone. And the phone didn't ring. But I thought, like, when you own business, like, like the phone was ringing. Like, and so, like, I did something brilliant. I put an ad in the yellow pages of the phone book. And then I went back in and stared at the phone, and the phone didn't ring. And I thought, well, I registered with the Corporation Bureau. I put an ad in the phone book, and I bought a phone. And, like, it won't ring. And I'm telling you guys, I sat in there every day for almost a whole summer. Like, this is how, I don't know, like, stubborn I was like, I believe that this will happen if I just look at the phone longer. And it never rang. So I started to feel like inadequate and like maybe I made a bad decision and I couldn't find leads and I didn't know how to, and there was no training. And so I quit. I quit real estate. My career lasted about 60 to 90 days and I quit. And my dad encouraged me, took me out to lunch to stick with it. And he taught me a lesson because I quit 7 times. Quit 7 different times in that first year. I would call my dad and my partner and be like, this was a stupid idea. I'm not making any money. I made more money at college as a bartender. And each time he would talk to me about perseverance. And he would talk to me about this idea called the compound effect. And for those of you who having trouble with leads, I just want to draw you a picture that there's a book called The Compound Effect, but Gary Keller talks about this a lot, shaped like a hockey stick. Picture yourself pumping a well, and like it's a hand pump, the water is 200 foot down, and you're pumping, and everybody around you is making fun of you because you've been out there like a half an hour pumping. What you can't see is that the water, as you're pumping it, is going up inside the casing of the well a little bit, but it's not coming out of the spigot. And so you keep pumping, and mid-afternoon, it's hot, and you've been sitting there all day, and everybody's like laughing at you because you still pumped the well. When you quit after you've, started, you don't know what type of activities have created a little bit of momentum. And if you quit before you see outcome or results, the water will go down and you'll never know it's there. But once the water comes out, it doesn't stop. I heard a couple people, Karen was one of them, who said, I'm now seeing, and Chris said, I'm now seeing the results of all of the work that I did and the fruit that I did early in my career. The business is coming to me. And so this is what a real estate career looks like. In the first couple months, and with some exceptions, 10 transactions in your first year. But it can feel like, there's not much happening, even though you're doing activities. But there reaches a point where, as long as you keep doing the activities, where there's a compound effect on those activities, and it really starts to earn for you. And my dad kept drawing me that picture and telling me that's how all businesses work. And as a real estate agent, we're owners of small businesses, and that's how it is going to look like. As long as you are relentless about this concept, it's called time on task over time. And we're going to talk about this a little bit, but if you bounce from one venture to another, one lead source to another, one well that you're pumping, and then you're like, that's not working, so I'm going to go do the other well. If you bounce from one shiny object to another, you will never experience the compound effect. What my dad taught me is that if I do, doesn't really matter what one thing I pick, and I'm going to put up on a screen lead generation activities that you guys can choose today. It doesn't really matter, he said, which one of those I choose. He just said, I need to choose one, and I need to spend all my time on that one task over time, relentlessly. And that's my comparative advantage compared to everyone else, is that everybody else is sort of distracted and doesn't have the discipline and quits a lead source after they start it. And I'm the one person that if I just pick something and stick with it for 2 hours a day for like a year, I don't have to be smart, I don't have to be witty. I just need to be relentless about one thing. And I'm so glad he taught me that, because it was probably the most wise, foundational business principle he could have taught me. And if somebody asked me, how are you a shareholder of these real estate businesses and all this stuff? If they had boiled down, what's one piece of advice you could give me that trumps every other piece of advice? It would be the concept of time on one task, doesn't matter which one, over time, relentlessly, and the experience of receiving the compound effect because of that activity. And so I quit, but then my dad talked to me about this lesson. And so I sort of got back up and started to, where's my clicker? Started to think about solutions. I started to think about some solutions. So I'll save you the search for solutions, but ultimately I came back to 2 solutions that were very basic. And you guys have talked about this one sort of incessantly, and 1 or 2 people talked about this one. Raise your hand if you talked about confidence in talking to people. Did somebody say that? Yeah, you did. You did. Yeah. Raise your hand if you're in the first 6 months of your business, if you feel a little inadequate or just a little lack of confidence when you're talking to people and advising them. Raise your hand. Let me see it high. Give some courage. Yeah. Yeah. So this is a big problem for me. And honestly, I found that as I solved this became a lot easier because my confidence went up. So I want to talk to you about the solutions that I found in getting the phone to ring. So we're going to talk about leads. So 80% of the room said leads were a problem. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about how I sort of figured this out. So let's talk about this first. So I was in there, I quit 7 times, and my dad was like, talk to me about this principle, and I was like, well, how do I get the phone to ring now? I'll do 1 task or 2, and I'll focus relentlessly on those. But like, what should I do? He didn't have a fancy answer. He said you have to talk to a lot of people about real estate, was his answer. And I just thought that was too simple to be an answer, but he couldn't have been more right. The tools that we use and the different things that are sold to us as strategies to talk to a lot of people, there's like 15 of them. But ultimately, they all are just tools to have conversations or communications with people about real estate. And you said, I said, how did you talk to a lot, how did you do 10 transactions your first year? You said, I just talked to everybody about real estate. That's what you said. And that couldn't be more true. So I read a book, and I read 2 books. One was printed in the 80s by Danielle Kennedy. It was called How to List and Sell Real Estate. It was 20 years old. And I read it, and then I summarized each chapter on a 3x5 card. And then I decided to time block my calendar with the activities that this lady said would help me get listings. The other book was this one. Raise your hand if you've read this one. Okay, so about half the room. If you haven't read this book, if there's nothing else that you get out of like my conversation with you today, please go and get this book and read it. Your market center can probably print out, there's free PDFs if you don't want to buy it. But please read this book and then read it again and summarize it in your own writing. Because this book is going to take the things that I talked to you about today and it's going to crystallize it in your mind. And I promise you it is hard not to be successful in this business if you just put these things into practice in this book. It's literally a playbook to how to build exactly what we're talking about today. It covers each phase of my business, including all the way to the 7th level of business that we talked about. And it separates it just like I'm separating it today, but shows you like literal blueprint, like here's what you do with your day, with your morning. Here's what you spend your time on. So please read that. And so I'm going to skip and I'm going to show you my favorite page of the book is page 138. Where's my clicker? Oh, here's page 138 of the book. Don't make fun of it. All right. Thanks. Thanks. All right. So, so this is outdated. This was printed in like the year 2000 or so, 20 some years ago. There is a new version of this going out, and it'll be a little updated. But guys, there isn't a whole. I love internet websites. They have email on there. Doesn't look like they have social media. But truly, the only they got fax. The only thing that they don't have, I think, that you would use today is maybe social media. Can anybody else, if anybody else can think of another lead gen source that they don't have, let me know. Go ahead and speak up. But I think that might be one of the only ones. So all of these activities still work today. And I would actually put these activities, most of them, way before social media from us. Because the quality of the impression matters, and social media is very, very noisy. Social media is one of those things where it's like it's credibility. So when somebody looks you up, if you don't have a presence there, your starting point from a credibility standpoint is too low. Later in your journey, social media can be really attractive if you focus on it relentlessly and make it one thing where you focus on time, on task over time, and experience the compound effect on it. But early on, these sources are some of the highest quality lead generating sources that you're going to find. And you should have a social media presence as well as just a basic starting point. So when people look you up, you look credible to them and trustworthy. So I'm just going to go down here, and I would like you guys all to take a minute and look over that. And I would like you to write down a minimum of 1, a maximum of 3 things that are on this list, or social media you could add. 3 things that you believe you feel generally comfortable enough with that you would commit to over the next couple of years of your real estate journey. I just want you to write down 1 to 3, and it can be just 1. Sometimes less is actually better. No more than 3 though. I'll just give you a minute. This one, I just found it last night and sent it to Jeff. Thanks for that. So here, how did that get? Yep. Claire, right? Oh, yeah, Claire. All right, so is everybody, raise your hand if you're done. Okay, just shout out, what you guys, what you guys pick?
Just sold / just listed.
Okay, just sold, just listed. Ruth?
Door knocking.
Door knocking, perfect.
Open houses.
Put a big old sign on my car.
A big sign in your car, okay, that's on there. Right here, car sign.
Past clients.
Past clients.
Allied Resources.
Farming, allied resources, that's your VIP list, kind of.
Client parties,
Booth.
monthly happy hour.
I love it. So guys, this is not rocket science. Sometimes we get worried that we have to like get the perfect lead generation pillar. And I'm in Gary's, I've been fortunate enough to be in Gary Keller's top teams in the company or whatever. And there's like a Facebook group and we can all talk to each other in there. And so we do conference calls with Gary and the rest of the people in that group. So these are the biggest real estate teams in the country. Some of them are selling 4,000 homes a year. There's one that's selling 32,000 homes a year. So these are businesses that are bigger than many of the franchises that you hear about, and they're teams within Keller Williams. And they're all running this playbook. Okay, this is the thing that they read and that they build their business off of generally. From a lead standpoint, I'm not from a financial standpoint, some of them are, but from a lead standpoint, getting to the unit count is generally page 138 of this book. Here's the thing, when I talk to those teams, there isn't anything that is on here that is like over and over again. There are people, Jeff Glover, radio sensation, most of his business right now is radio. Mark Spain, his billboards, right? These are very expensive mass media pieces that you don't want to start with early in your career. But I'm just telling you, like, the stuff that's on here, events, like there's teams that their whole business is open houses that I know of that I'm like, they're selling 400 homes. Where do you get most of your business? Well, our thing is open houses. The database, that's probably the one that comes up more than anything. And it's very rare to see a big business where they're not working their database as one of the core pillars. Most of those teams get 90% of their business from 2 or less pillars. And they might have 7 or 8 lead sources, but most of the businesses come from 1 or 2 things. I know teams that client parties is their thing. Michael Mayer, 7-level communication. His whole business is around client parties, social functions and community events. Door knocking. I know that teams that are selling hundreds of homes based upon door knocking. Definitely Thomas Elrod, his team is an expired team. So I just want to highlight that there's nothing on here that is off limits to build a massive real estate business. The key is not the lead source you pick. It's picking a lead source that you'll use, and you'll do it time on task over time, relentlessly stick to it so that you experience the compound effect of pumping that well, even when you're not seeing results in the first 6 months, and you don't stop pumping it and switch wells. You continue to trust in time on task over time. And the more you can focus on one thing, the more relentless you can be about that one task, the more you're going to set yourself way apart from everyone else who is trying to do multiple things at once and diluting their focus, or they're doing something and then it's not working, so they're switching, and then it's not working, so they're switching, and then they're quitting. Okay, so can I just ask if you check and see if you've been listening? What's the one thing that's most important to lead generation so far? So let me take this down.
Time on task over time.
Time on task over time. And what's a great lead source? Database is a great lead source. Are all these other lead sources bad? Can you build a big business with all of them? Absolutely, if you spend time on task over time, right? The word is relentless consistency on one thing over a long period of time. Less is more. Okay, so did y'all pick a couple things that you will do? For those of you who picked 3, I would narrow it down to 1 or 2. And the playbook for all of my businesses is to do one thing until that one thing is experiencing the upside of that hockey stick, that compound effect. So it's bearing fruit at 110%. And then I move off of that one thing and let somebody else run it. And then I do one thing again for 3 years until it's like really good and experiencing the compound effect. And then I build a fence around it and let somebody run that. And then I go do one thing for like 3 years relentlessly. So just narrow it down to one lead source and do that for 3 or 4 hours a day for a long time. Okay, and that's going to help you experience that compound effect. All right, so what did I pick? I did what I told you not to do. I picked 3 in my first couple years, and I believe that if I would have picked 1 or 2, I probably would have got further faster. But in all honesty, I picked 3. Who does expired FISBOs? Raise your hand. Great. Only one in the room. Competition's low on that one. Hey, I like it. Who does door knocking? Good. Who works for database? Spirit. Nice. That's great. All right. So, does anybody? What's you guys' biggest? Who's a little uncomfortable or lacks some confidence around talking people door to door, or talking to expired FISBOs, or talking to their database? Raise your hand if you're if you're really confident. And I trust there's actually a couple people in the room that should be raising their hand. If you're really confident in any of those sources, and I'm not going to test you, I promise. Chris is really confident. Justin, yep, Matt. Okay. So raise your hand. This is where the rest of you probably will raise your hand. If you struggle to have some confidence in any of those sources. Okay, good. So just if you raise your hand the second time, what's your give me just an idea of your fear. Just put it in your own words.
So Dave, what I would say is I am confident now. And every morning before the first phone call, I'm not confident for a second.
I love that.
Right? Like before the first call, all that doubt creeps in, and then you just get started.
Man, that is such a great tip. Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Honest, thanks.
I'd say the same thing Justin said. That's why I always do my calls after the gym, because I'm like, all right, I'm feeling good. Because my biggest thing and my fear in my head is I'm annoying, right? Yeah. I want to make sure I'm calling them and adding value and not just.
He's shaking his head at you.
I know.
That's why I don't believe.
You're like, why am I? You're like, as you're going up to the house, you're like, I'm just a sleazy salesperson. These people, right? Aren't we? Isn't that what we do? What else? What else is your fear?
I think I can echo that. I've learned over a few years to prepare myself better to make the call.
Yeah.
Or to make the door knock or to make the introduction.
Yeah.
Initially, like at first, you're so eager and you're go, which is what it should be.
Yeah.
But I think I was missing some opportunity by not properly setting a foundation from the minute I get up to the end of the day.
Can you just give us a taste of what that is?
Yeah.
So for that.
For me, one thing that I notice in the sales side of things, that I'm actually physically making the call, is I do much better when I'm standing up. Yeah. And it's something very small, but my energy, my tonality, my focus, my clarity, I just do better standing than I do sitting, and kind of slack back and reading notes and prospecting. Yeah. So that's really helped kind of elevate my career and feel like I've got the confidence, which then comes through the phone call when I'm building in that value prop. So that's a big thing that's really helped me. But I read a book, The Miracle Morning, a couple of years ago. Yeah, that absolutely changed my life in terms of, and I go through moments of full transparency. Yeah. There's moments when I'm way on, or there's moments when I'm way off.
And some mornings are not a miracle.
Correct. Yeah. But I do notice when I take that time to do, sit in silence, affirmations, visual board, exercise, building in some sort of reading, writing, scribing. Yeah. That really sets me where by, 7:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
I've accomplished X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm ready to go out and get
Great
that.
mindset. to
Yeah.
attack the day.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Mona?
Sometimes I feel like I have a lack of intelligence. And
Well-
a lack of. Well, there's just a-
You're very
and a
smart.
lack of experience.
Lack of intelligence and experience around what you talk to. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, and so we're a little bit of fear gets in our heads. Everybody pretty much in here has admitted that. And Chris, who said he has confidence, even said, I have to prepare so that I can eliminate that, as did Justin and Matt said, like, there are certain things I have to do, and I still, that creeps in. Just wanted to touch on, so in this launch phase of my business, my identity shift, I started and navigated this phase of my business. This is what I believed about myself. I'm not good enough. I'm a sleazy salesperson and I'm afraid to talk to people. That was what I believed about myself. And so I just want to touch on this second bullet here with you guys for a second, because it really helps put this into perspective. And it helps explain why what Chris does works for him. So there's a triangle that I learned about called thoughts, feelings, behavior, which in the middle of the triangle is belief. So what our identity is, where we get our identity or what we believe about ourselves. By the way, most of the beliefs we have about ourselves aren't true. They are lies that we subscribed to in our developing years, and we all have them. Some of us who have experienced trauma, I experienced some trauma when my dad left the house when I was 6, have more of this than others. But we all have some level of some identity issues that are misplaced, where we believe false things about ourselves. Based upon what we believe about ourselves, particularly if it's related to something false, like my belief about myself, my core belief when my dad left the house was that was my fault. I processed that as a 6-year-old, like he left the house and it's something wrong with me. And then when things happen in school and different things, I start to perceive that's probably because something is wrong with me again. And then in middle school, when something happens to me, somebody makes fun of me, or I feel like I didn't measure up. That's probably because something's wrong with me. And so you start to crystallize in your developing years a core belief about yourself that I'm not good enough, or I'm a disappointment, or I can't measure up. And when you develop a core belief, we all have core beliefs that are definitely not true. Some of yours may not be as ingrained as mine has been. But when we have that, most of the things that come at us, all humans have been said that, and some studies on this that I've read, all of us, there's around 2,500 versions of our identity because of what other people perceive us as. And so all of these people, there might be 25 different versions of Chris's identity because of how all these people that I have a version of Chris's identity. I don't know him. It's not the accurate identity of who he is authentically, but I have a perception of who he is right now. And it's not true. And there's 2,400 other versions of that aren't true. Really, there's only one that's actually true. And so when we have a belief about ourselves, it's one of those 2,500 identities that's not true. And everything that comes at us as we interact with the world produces, based upon that lens, produces thoughts, a thought. So I'm going to door knock, I'm going to call an expired FSBO, I'm going to talk to my database. I have a lens that I'm not good enough. And so there's a thought that comes in, that's going to produce a feeling. Feeling is a negative emotion like fear, guilt, or shame. Fear, guilt, or shame comes generally from thoughts that are based upon beliefs that we have about ourselves. That's going to lead to behavior. Maybe I'll try this once because I reach up the courage and then I get rejected and it's like, boom, now I'm not good enough. That's the thought. I have a feeling of shame. I think maybe I'm going to go get a drink instead of coping mechanism, instead of actually doing the activity that I know would improve my life. And so I just want to let you know that if you have feelings of I'm a sleazy salesperson, like Matt said, I can relate to that because that drove my thoughts, feelings, and behaviors for 10 years. And it prevented me from doing things that would improve my life and my business and my life with my family. Okay, does that make sense? You guys track with that? Can anybody relate to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. I'm going to talk about a book that I read that helped me with that in a minute. But I just wanted to sort of dot that I. So I'm going to actually talk about that right now because we're on something. So there's a book called High Trust Selling. And it was my first experience of probably 30 different books and seminars. I'm going through an intensive right now, 12-week intensive called the Identity Exchange, which is helping me with my leadership, just to be a more authentic person. It's a book called Living Fearless by Jamie Winship, which is a life-changing book. I put it in the top 3 books I've ever read. It does have a big faith element, so God's very important to me, and that's in there. If that's not important to you, you can still read the book and just replace that word with maybe something else. It's still a totally relevant book. But I read High Trust Selling, and the author challenged me about this concept, that I had some core beliefs about myself that weren't likely true. And I've since been to therapy, and that's been confirmed that that's a thing that most of us, struggle with. And what the author challenged me to do is just go through an exercise to understand what I wanted out of the conversation when I door knocked. So the question was, Dave, when you're going door knocking, you have a core belief that you're not good enough, you're disappointed, he's just going to think you're a sissy salesperson and reject you. Why might he think that? And the answer that in the exercise that I answered that question with, we should all answer this question was, well, he's going to think that because he's going to think I'm trying to sell him something, right? So it forced me to ask the question, am I trying to sell him something? It's a decent question. So I walked through that question, and the answer I came to is he would only think I was a sleazy salesperson if I was trying to sell him something or pull one over on him disingenuously. And so the question was, am I trying to pull him over or steal from him or get paid for him? Or would I be happy to help him actually without getting paid? Or be happy to help him and add value to his life, and if I added enough value, if he wanted to compensate me, I'd be thrilled to take that. But even if I didn't get paid, I had to ask the question, would I be comfortable helping him without getting compensated? The answer was a wholehearted yes. Actually, given the truth, like when thinking about my database or the door knocking, between the two options of pulling something over on him and like charging a big hefty fee where he, at the end of the day, I put 5-10 grand in my pocket and he was unhappy with me, versus helping him and being a blessing to him and not getting paid at all, which one would I take all day long? Being a blessing and not getting paid. I mean, I don't, maybe somebody in this room would answer the question differently, but I knew for a fact that I didn't want to go 10 years pulling things, swindling people, putting 10 grand in my pocket and having them really upset with me, because then maybe then I'm not good enough. That would confirm that. So for me to be good enough to feel good about myself, I was very comfortable with the idea that I could help Mr. Smith with his home ownership experience and not expect anything in return. And if I gave him enough value at all times, and down the road he had a cousin or a nephew that was looking to buy or sell a home, he might think of me first, and I'd be grateful for that. So my perspective, and it's sort of the iceberg analogy, changed. What I was doing is I had this core belief about myself up here that was above the water that was a little part of who I was, but it was a lie. It was not true. The truth down here was that I found joy out of helping people generously. I found joy out of helping people generously without even expecting anything in return. That was the true statement about who I was. The lie was that I'm not good enough and I'm a sleazy salesperson. The truth under the water, that was 90% of the iceberg that actually defined who I was I was perfectly happy giving and giving and giving value and maybe and not getting anything in return. And yet maybe down the road someday they would refer me business. If I could go about my life doing that and being kind to people, I would be satisfied with that. That would be a life well lived. And so that book helped me define something about myself. I was putting 90% of my identity on this lie, and it helped me define something about myself that was true and anchor my whole identity in sales when I was talking to people in that fact that was actually true about myself. So whenever I felt, the moment I did that and I wrote it down, here's the process I went through. If you're thinking about a miracle morning, you're thinking about calling, and you need to prepare yourself for a conversation so that you don't have a negative thought and then a feeling and then a behavior that leads to not doing the thing you want to do. Here's what I would challenge you to do. Just go through a brief process of an identity exchange, which I will tell you, I go through it. I've already been through this process probably 10 times today. I'll probably do it while I'm talking to you. So here's the process. Now that I know this is true about me, and that this core belief was the lie, and I've written it down on a piece of paper, the moment I sense a thought or a feeling related to fear, guilt, or shame, that's a smoke alarm going on. Those feelings are like a smoke alarm. And it's a smoke alarm that says there's a lie around that is based on something that's not true about yourself. And I want you to, for me, I go to God. So I'm like, God, just take this lie from me. You're all about truth. Or whatever that, the universe, whatever that is for you, just recognize that fear, guilt, and shame are generally just, this isn't psychobabble. They're generally not based upon true statements about yourself, about who you authentically are. They're based upon lies that are some baggage that you carry with you. And so just when you feel that, just say, hey, I'm going to give this over to you. And then what's the truth? The truth is that I'm willing to help people generously without anything in return. When I actually anchor myself back in that true mindset, then I can go and talk to my database and go door knocking or talk to an expired in a BizBell, knowing that I'm not here to sell them anything and I'm here to help them generously without anything in return. So when I door knocked for the first 3 years of my career, I went door to door in 3 neighborhoods, 180 homes. You guys, who knows the story? My door knocking story. Okay, good. Justin knows it. So I went door knocking for the first couple of years of my career, and I actually put rollerblades on. And I wore a suit back then, and I was 23. And I went door to door at Meeting House Heights, Nottingham, and Chapel Hill. And I had a trapper keeper, like from high school. And I had the tax record printed out of all the homes and the full name of the homeowners. And I would wear rollerblades because people thought it was sort of funny. And I would get through 4 times the amount of houses than on my feet, my shoes. And so I would go, and here's what I would do. I would say, and if you're door knocking, you can use this dialogue if you want to. I would say, hey, Adrian, and he'd like, hopefully it was Adrian, or no, I'll go get my dad or whatever. Hey, Adrian, hey, it's Dave Hooke. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I am a real estate agent, but not looking to, convince you to sell your home or anything like that. And they would like laugh awkwardly. And I would just say, I love Chapel Hill. And I'm a young real estate agent that works harder than anybody else. And I'm just the guy that wants to love on this neighborhood because I love this neighborhood. And so in your home ownership experience, if you want to know the house, what it sold for up the street, or what your home might be worth so you can get a refinance, stuff that I'm not going to get paid in, or somebody to clean your gutters or do your lawn, I just wanted to give my card out to the neighbors. You may have your own realtor that you trust. That's totally fine. But if you don't want to bother them, you just want a free resource, I'm trying to get to know the houses here. So it's a win for me to be able to serve you without anything in return. And it might be a win for you just to shoot a quick text if you have a question about your home ownership experience. Is that okay? That was it. Sure, door shut. Now, because I spent time on task over time relentlessly for a long time, the second time I would go to Adrian's house, he would be sort of surprised that I came back, like in a respectful, like, "Oh, you're still at this, you silly boy." And the third and fourth time, if it was snowing or drizzle or cold, he'd be like, "You know what, take them off, come on in, I make a coffee." I go in Adrian's house, and I found after being relentless time on task over time, I started to earn this sort of strange like respect from the homeowners in those communities because I did what I said I was going to do. I always followed up with a handwritten note if we had a conversation, just to, mention something that I took from the conversation, or maybe they needed some landscaping help, and I just put a handwritten note and said, "Hey, I called so-and-so landscaping and told them to take good care of you. They'll be in touch." I would always follow up and try to give them value. And I wouldn't ask for anything in return, especially in those first 3, 4, 5 times. And here's what I found happen. Because I gave so much value without asking for anything in return, and I was anchored in the fact that I wanted to help generously. When I would go to Adrian's house the 4th, 5th, and 6th time, he would start saying to me, "I wish I had somebody to refer to you like I would. I've been thinking as you've been coming, like, who do I know that's buying or selling a house? I'd love to give you the business." And so people around me, as I earned their trust by coming from value and contribution, started to want to refer me business. And very quickly, because of the compound effect, that phone started to ring and I started to get very, very busy. So when I was talking to my database, it's the same script. Everything's the same conversation, and it still is to this day. Call the database, and I love calling around events that we're having, little client events. But even if there's not an event, I might just call and say, I always promise my database I'm going to help them with their homeownership experience. I ask them if that's okay, and I just say, I'll follow up with you a few times a year and check in to see if you need anything, regardless if you're buying or selling. So I would call Adrian and say, "Hey, Adrian, it's I'm checked in since the fall, it's the spring. Anything you need in your homeownership experience, I promised I would do that." No, I get that right out of the way. "Great, how are the kids? How's family? How's this? How's that?" You might ask how the real estate business is, which is an opportunity for me to talk about the real estate business. But I'm always checking in, asking how I can help with their homeownership experience. The first time I call my database or talk to them, if I didn't check in with them for a while, and this is something you could write down that we train a lot of our agents to do, is if you're going to take away and talk to your database on this, here's what you do. Say, call them and say, "Hey, Chris. Hey, Dave Hooke, real estate. Remember me? Yep. Hey, do you have a second? I have a business call." "Yeah, sure. All right. I just wanted to apologize. I was just in like a conference at the real estate office, and this real estate agent who's been in the business 20 years mentioned that he doesn't just communicate with his clients when he's going to get paid a commission when they're buying or selling a house. He actually thinks it's his job as their fiduciary real estate agent to check in with them when he's not getting paid, when they're perfectly happy in their home, just to see if they need anything in their home ownership experience, whether it's mortgage person who could advise them on a refinance or an insurance refloat, or an electrician or a plumber, a landscaper, or anything in their home, spring cleaning, pressure washing, things like that. And I realized, like, I've known you and you're one of the people I care about, and I haven't even done what that guy said he does. And I feel like I've let a lot of my trust relationships down. Is it okay if I touch in with you a few times a year and just check in on your homeownership experience, knowing that you're probably not looking to buy and sell for a while? Yep. I mean, nobody says no to that. And now you have permission to just follow up and come from contribution. And honestly, my script was this dialogue and approach was anchored in my identity, was the same with expireds and FSBOs. I would help FSBOs sell their home on their own. "Hey, Chris, Dave Hooke, I know you're selling your home on your own. That's awesome. You probably save a fee." I find that a lot of people, that's a good approach. "Do you mind would you be offended if I dropped off a free service package? It's just a package that gives you 10 or 12 tips so that you can sell your home faster or more money without an agent. Would you be offended if I dropped that off?" They like to say no, so no, I wouldn't be offended. Great, I'll pop over and drop that off. Then I can drop it off and genuinely go through some tips and strategies to have them sell their home on their own. And I mean it. I mean it with every ounce of my body. And they're like, "What's in it for you?" I'm like, well, it's a win-win, really. If you sell your home on your own you're probably gonna be like, hey, you did what you said you were gonna do and gave me some stuff. And maybe if a friend or family member doesn't want to sell their home on their own, I'll be somebody that you think of. And if you can't sell your home in a while, I'm probably gonna be the only guy that touches in with you for a while and helps you sell your home on your own. And if you have to choose a realtor, maybe I'll be in the running to get an interview. So again, you don't, if you have some identity stuff around not wanting to talk to people, just know when you anchor yourself in, a true identity about yourself, which I'm confident you all want to contribute to people's lives and find joy in that. Then honestly, if you get a mean person on the line or somebody really struggling, that's on them. Like they don't want the light that you're bringing to the world and the joy that you're offering, the kindness that you're offering. That's their issue. That's not yours. And I feel totally comfortable in my own skin and be like, oh man, you're missing out. I literally would help you out.
I think when I first started, one of the things that helped me get over some of those fears or that my own objections in regard to why wouldn't I call or why wouldn't I, the way I got out of my way is, and I say this over and over to all of my clients about everything, which is the answer is always no unless you ask.
Yeah.
So what is it going to hurt?
What's
If
it gonna
somebody
hurt?
says no, what's it going to hurt?
Yeah, you already got to know.
Yeah.
Like
Right, you
100%
give
of people
yourself
you don't
no.
talk to have said no because you haven't asked. Yeah, that's a great point. Great. All right, so just back to this part of my journey here. Hey, Mike. There we go. Let's see. There we go. All right, so those were the things that I did, and I time blocked those lead generation activities in my calendar every day, 3 to 4 hours, and I anchored myself in a true identity. And if I ever felt fear or anxiety or guilt or shame, I would go back to that image and say, this is a part of me, but this is a bigger part of me. And then I would come from contribution. I want to tell you, so this is what made the phone ring for me. But on the other screen, you may have picked other prospecting and lead generation activities. That's completely fine. I just want to add a key to building a real estate business that you can't, it's just really hard to overlook. Because you can't go wrong with it, I promise you. Whatever you choose, maybe you're door knocking and expired FISBOing, maybe you're doing, client events, whatever it is. Just make sure that you're adding to your database of people that you know, like, and trust on a monthly basis. We call them METs. And the reason that it matters so much to add people to your database that you know, like, and trust, and then touch in with those people on a regular basis is an exercise I'm going to take you through. If you guys could all get your calculators out and a pen and paper, I'm just going to take you through a brief exercise that we have the agents on our team go through when we started the business. So when I started going door to door, it took me a while till the phone started to ring. I had to build trust with all those people by doing what I said I was going to do. It took a couple of years and the phone started to ring and I got real busy. What I realized is on average, it took me about 5 hours per human of interacting with them till they would say they like me, know me, and trust me. It took about 5 hours. Some of them were shorter than that. Some of them were longer than that. But on average, I believe that I spend about 5 hours in relationship with somebody before they would see me in the grocery store, be like, hey, Dave, what's going on? Like, I feel I know them a little bit. And the key to real estate is people will use you to buy and sell a home when they have life change. So, Kat is not going to go around talking to people into buying or selling a home. You're not going to convince them. You're not going to go door and convince somebody to sell a home. They're going to use you if they have life change happen to them, and you're the first agent that comes to their mind. So what are some things that represent life change? Divorce. Wow, that was like marriage. Marriage. There we go. Death. Engagement. Good job.
Growing family.
Diapers. Yeah, all that stuff. So when people have life change, 76% of them, National Association of Realtors says, use the first agent that comes to their mind when they have life change. So the key to the database is just, as a lead source that you don't want to overlook, is just that if 76% of people will use you when they have life change, it becomes a numbers game. The goal is get as many people that know, like, and trust me into a database, and touch in with them frequently enough that when they have life change at the same percentage of the population of the rest of the country, as they have life change, about 10% of them a year, you'll be the first person they call when they have life change. So here's the math, here's the exercise I wanted you to do. Back then, my hourly wage, when I was like starting to get busy and getting paid commissions, doing 15, 20, 30 transactions a year, was $83 an hour. So did you write that down? $83 an hour. That was my hourly wage when I was getting pretty successful in real estate. All right. It took me 5 hours per person to build trust, but just write it down, 5 hours to build trust. And after knocking on doors for 2 years and doing 5 hours per person, I had built a database of 250 people that really liked me and trust me. Write down 250 people. So it took me two years to get 250 people that really like me and trust me. Now, I want you to multiply. Take your iPhones out, or Androids. The iPhone. Take them out and just go. I want to know how many hours it took me to build trust with 250 people at 5 hours per person. A little bit of a word. Louder. 1,250 hours. That doesn't count all the hours that I got rejected and didn't build trust with people. That's the low amount. That's just the hours I spent in 2 years building trust with 250. So I have a database of 250 people now because of my hard work at 5 hours per person, 2 years door knocking when Bolas lanes. Right? I just don't want you to go through what I went through. That's what it's all about. So I got this database, and now that database at 10%, that's the number, is having life change, diapers, divorce, marriage, job results. And 76% of them are calling me. That's how I'm selling 20 homes a year. Because 76% of them are having 250 people, 10% is 25 people, 76% of them are calling me on this house. That's why my phone was ringing. And that's just sellers. I mean, referrals now from them, okay? It's just numbers. But it took me 1,250 hours to do that, plus all the hours of rejection. Now, what was my dollar per hour? All right, take 1,250 hours times $83 an hour. Shout this one out.
103,750.
Louder.
103,750.
103,000?
750.
$103,000 at $83 an hour. I spent $103,000 of my time earning trust so that 76% of 250 people would call me when they had life change and I would sell 20 some homes a year. Here's the aha I had way too late in my career. Way too late. After reading that book. If I went into my email, all people I had email, if I went into my mobile phone, pull out your mobile phone, go to your contacts, pull out your mobile phone, go to your contacts. Go to your phone app, go to your contacts, and go to lists at the top of your contacts, upper left. How many do you have in there? Just shout it out. Doesn't matter. 600.
2947.
2947. Anybody beat 2947?
1903.
6,577.
I've been around.
Mostly you're gonna find that people have anywhere from 100 to a few thousand with some outliers. So go to my phone, go down through my Facebook friends, see who I know, go through people invited to my wedding, go through my parents' social circles. If I'm 18 and a little bit younger, I might go through like, who do I know, who my parents know. And I'm gonna write down those names. We tested this to go through those sources and write down 250 people and then find their contact information. It takes about 10 hours. 250 people takes 10 hours. Now here's the difference. Most of us are running to open houses and door knocking. Nothing wrong with that stuff. Running to open houses and door knocking. Running to spend money on Zillow leads. Nothing wrong with that if they convert. We're paying for all this business. we're paying $103,000 of our time to get them to refer us business. And all those people in my phone and my Facebook groups and my email that are stored, what my aha was is that for the previous 20 years of my life, I had already interacted with them at 5 hours a week. That had already built trust. And I didn't have to go through 2 years and 1,250 hours and $103,000 of my time to get to sell 20 houses a year. And yet we all started the business and it's too freaking boring to make the list for 10 hours and we flush $103,000 down. So take 10 hours with your calculator times $83 an hour. What do you get? What was that?
830.
830.
Did we need a calculator?
Yeah. Less money.
David did.
830. So when you're starting in business, you can do all of those lead sources, do something that you're going to stick with, but make sure you don't miss the best investment that you will probably ever make in your real estate career. Nick, spending $830 of your time so that you capitalize on the $103,000 you already spent over the last 20 years. Just take the 10 hours and do the boring, unsexy work, making freaking lists, and then touch in with your people coming from a genuine place so that when they have life change at the same percentage as the rest of the population, 10%, 20 people, 76% of the 25 out of the 250 will call you so that you can list yourself. You guys got that?
Yep.
There's nothing else that is more important in the first 2 to 4 weeks of your real estate career than that. And then you're going to continue to add to that, and that's going to be a lead generation pillar. And then you couple that with one other. It might be door knocking, might be expiring fist posts, might be something else. And then when you touch in, you come from contribution, you give twice as much value as the thing that you expect in return. Just do that relentlessly, time on task over time. Experience the compound effect in your business. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that took us an hour and a half. So I'll touch on this real quick. I just want to let you know that there's something in business called the 4 C's that is really helpful to experience if you're leading a team or helping coach some people or you are new to the business. This is a concept that I think we should remind ourselves, perhaps at the beginning of every class before we lead gen. It's called the 4 C's. Raise your hand if you made a commitment to get a real estate license and start a business in the last 6 months. Okay. When you first made that commitment and passed your tests, what's an emotion that you felt?
Goal met. There's goal met.
Goal met, relief, happy, excited, perfect. So the first C is commitment. And the emotion around that is usually excitement or something like that, happiness. After you've been in the business for about 2 to 4 weeks, what do you quickly realize?
It's hard.
It's hard. What do we see over and over again? I need leads, right? And so really quick after, this usually lasts for about a year if you don't quit 7 times like I did. It takes courage is the second C. Okay? And the emotion that
God, are you fucking serious?
most of the time
Come on.
is inadequate. That's right. You're feeling a level of inadequacy. If you're new in the business and a buyer or seller, you go out on an appointment and they ask you a question about the agreement of sale or escrow or something, do you feel completely confident advising them? You feel a little bit inadequate. And it's hard. And you feel like I don't want to call people and I feel fear and all the stuff that we talked about before. And so that takes courage. Courage is not a lack of fear. It's actually doing the thing that you don't want to do even though fear is present. And I gave you a little trick to anchor yourself in a true identity to help alleviate some of that fear that is based upon a false identity. And that will help you. But you're still going to need courage to get through inadequacy. The third C is you feel capable. And this is an area where you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing a little bit. And like, I got this. And the last one is confident. And this is where you really get motivated to tackle the world. When you just like, get out of my way, I got this, okay? This is kind of a neutral, you're going back, this one you're going back and forth between inadequate and motivated when you're capable. And so I realized very quickly that I felt inadequate and I needed to get to confidence as fast as I could. And that would help me when I'm talking to people, even though I'm already anchored in my true identity over here, coming from contribution, being more confident about what I was talking about would just help me feel more motivated. So recognize the 4 C's. So here's what I did. I actually did this in my first, it was probably like after I quit and I got back on the horse, it was like month 5, 6, 7. I printed off all of the forms that people use 80% of the time. So just ask your PC coach or broker or somebody. So agreement of sale, listing contract, buyer's agency, consumer notice, maybe some of the addendums to the agreement of sale. What are some other forms that you guys use a lot?
Cost sheet, disclosure.
Cost sheet, disclosure, that's right,
Price escalation.
escalation addendum, appraisal addendum. And so I printed those out and I time blocked an hour every day. It was usually right after I drank some coffee because it's like the hardest work of all. And I would read for 45 minutes or so the form. And then I would summarize each paragraph of the form on a 3x5 card. You laughing?
Yeah, we've done that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I did. And so once I summarized how many paragraphs are in the agreement of sale these days? Like 27.
11 pages. Right?
34 paragraphs. Yeah, back when I did it, it was like 15.
6 years ago.
So I would have all 34 paragraphs. The gist of what it was saying would be on like paragraph 1. Here's the gist. It was like price. Paragraph 2, like 70. But after you get into the longer ones, there was like half-page paragraphs. I would write the gist of it on 3x5 card. And then I would carry those around with me and I would look at the paragraph and then I would just say what the summary said. And I would do that with all the forms. And I did that for like a couple months. And I'm telling you, if you're new to the business, if you go through that process and just do that every day for a couple months, you will have so much courage and feel so capable in this business when you're talking to people. You will literally, and here's the thing, you will actually be a stronger fiduciary than some agents who have been in the business for 5, 6, 7 years that literally to this day haven't been trained to read their agreement. So reading the agreement of sale will go a long way into sort of filling your cup, and you'll be very confident when you're talking to people about real estate. All right. So we went through that. Some of the tools that I used: Google Calendar, so a digital calendar. I always time block my prospecting and lead follow-up. I chunked like-kind activities with other like-kind activities. Protected my time every day. My voicemail said, hey, it's David Hooke. It's Wednesday, September 4th. I'll be available off and on throughout the day today from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Your calls after hours if you return the next business day. Thanks so much for calling. Just record that every day. What that gives me is it takes away the guilt that when clients and things are calling, I don't feel an obligation to answer. And so as one of the busiest agents around, my phone was out on silent at all times. Never rang. Okay, because I needed to make sure I got my lead gen time and the most important things done. And I was not going to solve problems on their agenda. I was going to run my business on my agenda. And then I would collect their voicemails, and my clients felt I was very on top of it because I'm the only person they knew that had like recorded their voicemail that day. And it gave me just this freedom to protect my time and to honor, like I was constantly training my clients. Don't call me after 6 because I'm not going to answer. And when I signed them up on a buyer listing presentation, in the buyer listing presentation, it said my core values, a little bit about, my organization. And then it said office hours. It said 9 a.m. to 6, Monday through Friday, Saturday, 9 to noon, maybe. And that eventually went away and there was no office hours on weekends. When I got to that, I'd say, yeah, so I'm like anybody, these are my office hours, just like an attorney. Here's when you can reach me. I actually do practice a little bit on Saturdays. And, you can see it's 8 or 9 hours a day. Call me during these times, you might get my voicemail because I'm in an appointment with a client like you, focusing on a person, but always, check my voicemails in between appointments and things like that. If you call after hours or reach on the next business day, any issues or concerns with that. Okay, and just sign right there. Sign right there. Just sign my office hours. And then if somebody freaked out on me, they're like, why didn't, I'm like, do you remember the listing contract we signed? You signed off my office. So I remind them. And generally speaking, I talked to a lot of agents who got busy. They would say, they're on all times and, full transparency. When you get busy, you do feel on in your head, no matter what. And, that's the thing. But I did do a pretty good job of protecting my time. And when my clients would call me after hours, a lot of times their voicemail or their text would start with a call. Sorry, it's after hours. So I needed them to know that my family was more important than my career, and they respect that. So, say no to appointments during prospecting lead follow time. This was the biggest difference between my first real partner in the real estate brokerage and me. He would take appointments whenever they came in, and I would. If they said it's between 9 and 11 or 4 and 6 when I was door knocking. They wanted to see a house. They wanted to list a house. My business partner could not understand why I would not take the appointment. And I would just say, I'm booked. They'd say, can I see a house? So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm booked with another appointment. And I would give them an abundance of options, 3 other options. And so protect your time and never just be relentless about time on task over time on one thing. And that's the lead generation you picked. And then adding to the database and touch program trumps a lead, an appointment, or an offer. Adding to the database and touch program trumps a lead, an appointment, or an offer. People often struggle with this one, but there's nothing more important or valuable in the long term in your real estate business. If you're ever going to sell anything, you're going to sell your database. And that is your business. It's not your cell phone, it's not your emails, it's not your brokerage, it's your database. So, honoring, like I was going to add 5 people a week to my database. And if there was a lead to come in or an offer to write, I would be like, oh, I got an appointment. My appointment would be adding to my database. So I would reschedule whatever they needed to do. All right, so that was the identity shift in that phase of my business. I'm going to stop there. That takes us right through the phase 1 of my business, 0 to 25 transactions. Just to recap, I wasn't busy. I quit. Solution 1 was get the phone to ring. Solution 2 was gain confidence. We talked about identity change and some scripts and dialogues. And we talked about the 4 C's and how to gain confidence in your forms. We had you guys pick a few lead sources, and the one to pick is the 1 or 2 you'll use. And within that, make sure that the database is one of at least 2 of them. Here are the tools that you use. And then I've rarely ever talked to somebody who says just from ground zero, I just love making cold calls. And so I just wanted you to know that I relate to that.
Does, it's weird.
What's that?
Justin kind of does, it's weird though.
Yeah, he said that he has fear with. Okay. And just walk you through just sort of that transition. And then this is the next phase of my business. We're running up on 1 o'clock. So, this was the 25 to 50 transactions. Now I had too much business and not enough time. So my problem was different. And my solution was to get my time back and regain balance. And so it was coaching. I switched and made my lead gen marketing based, not prospecting based. And the database system became pretty much all I did. And I added leverage, an assistant, transaction coordination, and buyer's agent during that time. Same tools as before. And I transitioned my identity to something much bigger than myself. So we can totally unpack all that stuff. I guess I would just ask you, for now, I saw a lot of people take a lot of notes. I know that was a lot of information in 90 minutes. And so we probably don't have time to go through it, the next one slowly. If you could I'm going to go around the room, and if you could just think about what's an aha or a takeaway, whether you're new in the business and you just heard something that you can take action on. So one thing that is our takeaway to take action on. Or you're a seasoned person in the business, you may have heard something a little different than you heard before. Just think about that. And then if you do have any questions about any of this that you want me to go a little bit deeper on, we have 15 or 20 minutes. Yeah, just.
Well, my issue being leverage, and it came at the very end there, is that the lead is less important than the database.
Yeah.
Right? So focusing on where the leverage is lost, and then I'm reacting to what other people need, not running it based off of my schedule.
That's right. And it's the difference between working in the business and working on the business. When working in the business, we're responding to customers and real estate and showings and all that. Working on the business, we're adding to our database. We're building a system that's going to work in our business forever. So you're exactly right. When you get too busy and you don't have leverage, what gets sacrificed is the on the business work. And that's why real estate agents and plumbers and electricians stay in the perseverance phase of business because they get busy and their customer service starts to suffer and they stop lead genning and working on the business. And then they're not busy and they start lead genning again. Whereas what creates this in the business, when this gets too wild, what has to happen is you have to get leverage.
I make short-term decisions over long-term decisions.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you stay in that cycle.
You stay in that cycle because you're responding to the urgent and you're not responding to the very important but not urgent on the business items. And the only solution to that, to make this line straight, is leverage. That's exactly right. And then they will respond to the urgent and you will get back on the business, lead generating and building systems.
And can I just add one? So on Monday, those of you that are in PC, we are going to be teaching about prospecting. So please come prepared with your 1 to 3 things off of this list that you would like to focus on. And that way, if we can start that the same way Dave started with what's your problem, if we could start with what is your lead gen, right? What are you looking to be in? It will help us be more direct in the prospecting conversation.
Love it. Yeah, Mona.
The takeaway that I took is whenever you did the iceberg thing, I think it's nice to hear someone who has made like such a big business and just hearing someone like who's high producing as you talk about how important like confidence is. So I really struggle with that and how important it is to not listen to those big beliefs that sometimes your mind tries to make up about yourself.
Yeah.
And it's nice to hear. So I currently go to therapy for a dead parent. My mother died, and I struggle with confidence. And it's nice to hear someone also like relate to that trauma piece.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think probably most of us should be in some therapy if we haven't been.
Yeah.
For different things that are outside of our control. And all too often, when you go deeper with people, you realize how much of their behavior is motivated by thoughts and feelings that are based upon a belief that's not even really true. So it's huge. I mean, that can change your whole life in business right there. Like you can get all the leads and everything correct. And if you're not living like in your true self and you're responding to all these thoughts and feelings that relate to fear and shame and guilt, it's like trying to do business with 2 hands tied behind your back, you know? So thanks for sharing that. What else? I mean, two more things that you heard today that were helpful.
The database thing, because I mentioned the database, like I have it in my phone. Just do that 10 hours of boring, right? Success is boring, so just do it.
There's even services. I know Mike was.
Yeah, Mike like told me to do it all the time.
Charge
Give it to
$1
Scott
per
Leroy.
contact, where you have somebody source the missing information for you.
Yeah, and it's worth, again, $103,000. Just capitalize on it. That's great. I love that. One more.
Systems.
Systems.
That's what I heard loud and clear. That's what I came in with. If you want to do all of these things and you're doing it haphazardly, you're not going to do it successfully.
Yeah.
So you have to have a system. I'm certain your system is very well integrated. And you just every day, probably everybody comes in and goes, this is what we have to do today.
Yeah. Math is in the math. And systems make all that easier. you know, if you know that if you want to sell 20 homes and 10% of the population has a life change, you need 250 people that know, like, and trust you, and you need to communicate with them enough to make sure that when they have life change, you're the first person that comes to their mind. So if that's true, you know, 250 people at we say 60 touches a year. Gary Keller says 36. I'll go with Gary, he's smaller. 250 times 36. That's 9,000 touches. You say, you know, you just end up breaking it down. You're like, how am I going to do 9,000 touches a year? And you will sell 20 plus homes. You touch 250 people 9,000 times a year. You just will. You're touching each of them 3 times a month. 250 people, each of them 3 times a month. And you're either going to do it handwritten notes, voice to voice, text message, social media, direct mail, email. Like, there's only a few options. And you're either going to touch them 9,000 times or you're not. And so then it's like, what am I going to do today to get the number of touches in today on my 250 people so that by the end of the year I've touched them 9,000 times? It's not any more complicated than that.
The time on task over time, I think, was big. I mean, I haven't heard it explained that way before, but it resonated with me because I feel like I acknowledged that in my business years ago.
Yeah.
And really focused in on the certain pillars that I've been passionate about and I'm skilled at, and really spending that
And
time.
Chris, I know obviously you've been contemplating this change and you said if you dial back on some of your core activities, which you're feeling right now. So as soon as you get that back, it's like if you stick with it, the business stays with you. If you deviate, the business tends to drop off.
Absolutely. And it kind of ties into that compounding effect, and you know, that's good stuff.
Darren Hardy, right?
Darren Hardy, that's right. Yeah, he wrote the compound effect.
Were you single bladed? Were you how'd you do that? What was the style? What was the brand of the blade?
It was the 3 or 4 wheels on the old school rollerblades. I think it was like my rollerblades from high school, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody's cold called like professionally TCPA compliant, of course, but I would say, like, when I used to call people, I used to do it on my cell phone and dial the number. And then I got an auto dialer, like Mojo, like auto dialer, and it was like a 3-line dialer. I could hit like many more people. So telemarketers used it. It was kind of like that. I'm going to a dialer.
Nice.
Jinko jeans.
What you said?
What made you think of like, oh, I'm gonna put on rollerblades?
Well, that book that I read, How to List and Sell Real Estate, she talked about door knocking. Daniel Kennedy did in the 80s. And she said that she did it while she was very pregnant, and sometimes she just got out and did the best thing that she did. And I was like, look, I feel like this is way too slow. And then I was like, well, how can I go faster? And I was like, well, put rollerblades on. And I was like, no, I'm gonna be the biggest idiot in the world. And I just remember her saying how she just always had these false beliefs about herself, and then she got made fun of in the office, like she was pregnant and she felt stupid going out, but she did it, and she built an amazing brokerage and amazing business. So I was just like, I'm gonna do whatever I'm gonna do to talk to as many people as fast as I could. I put them on, and then I never looked back. And then it actually became like a funny thing in those neighborhoods. They'd be like, at first it was like, there's the idiot on rollerblades that looks like he's 14.
You did the math, like the time between houses and driveways and stuff, it got you into exponentially.
It got me into way more houses, way more conversations. People ended up, it ended up being like a whole thing, like a whole like brand. It like developed around that. It was really memorable to people. I will say, it was really stupid at first. Like, it was like, some people would be like, what the H are you doing? But after like a year, people started to have this weird respect. And they're like, there's the kid of the rollerblades again. And we had a lot of conversations. Yeah, exactly.
There's the agent in Alaska that did it on horseback.
Oh, yes.
Lindsay Friction is the running realtor. She runs their showing appointments if they're within like 10 miles.
There you go. Gotta do something.
How long did you live in phase 2, the perseverance phase? Like, how long was your career in that state, at 25 to 50?
Yeah, probably. Well, I'm gonna guess like this is a rough guess. 2000, let's say 2006. So like 3 years in, probably broke out of that 25. And then I probably stayed in there until like 2000. Well, 2011. So about 5 years.
Can I ask you a specific question about like time blocking when you're in that stage?
Yeah.
You mentioned like the work-life balance, and setting those proper expectations with office hours and
Yeah.
the importance of family and setting that expectation. And after 6 o'clock, I'll return, the next day.
Yeah.
How did you work with clients who had strict specific schedules that they were 9 to 5ers, and by the time they can go out on showings, listing appointments, write offers, it was always like, I work with a database and I know I've got people who are morning people, afternoon people, and evening people based off their life.
Yeah.
Did you structure?
You
or
want the
time block?
answer of, so I'll give you the answer of when I did this well, because I did this. The one answer is sometimes I didn't do this well and I worked with them and it didn't go well for me to work with them.
Right.
There are moments in my career where I did this well and here was the answer. I wouldn't work with them.
Okay.
Which sounds crazy.
Yeah.
People. They're like, well, but my answer to everything was, it's a lead problem. My answer was like, it's a lead generation problem. So like, I run a business and I'm not going to be the guy that's grasping to work with people who are not motivated, who are mean, who don't want to work with me, or who won't work on my schedule. No more than anybody else in any other industry would, like a doctor or anybody like that. They're not going to work on the consumer schedule. And so I was just very clear that this was my practice. This was Dave Hooke's practice. I had office hours. I stuck to it, time blocks. And if you weren't okay with that, I'm not the best agent for it. But like, oh, there's a dozen other ones that'll probably do a great job for you, no problem. They don't have any boundaries. And you should work with them. And my answer was, that's only going to be a problem for me if I'm not doing the lead generation activity that I need to be doing. If I was doing the lead generation activity like 4 hours a day, every day, I just took the best business, the most motivated, the most kind, the best core values fit, and I referred everything else out to other people in my brokerage for a 25% referral fee.
Okay.
And that was no problem. So
Well, now there's hybrid approaches, right? Like showing assistance and,
Yeah.
different showing services. You can pay, kind of seems like $35, so it's a going rate to get somebody to cover a showing for you, or if it's a long-term effort where they're gonna show you dozens of houses, then you give them a piece of the deal or whatever. There's hybrid approaches.
yeah, once I built a team, then that was business that my team members could take if they wanted to, and that was the way they wanted to practice.
Thank you.
What made you get back up whenever like you quit 7 times?
Oh, probably my dad. My dad was encouraging and reinforcing. My dad had been in the real estate business from 1959 to 1990, and my grandfather from 1943 to 1980. And my dad had seen everything. And while he didn't know anything about like the internet or about how to sell a house these days, he just had a long history of like being able to teach me some of the stuff I share with you today about time on task and just this idea if I go about my life, like when things get hard, I just jump because of the circumstances and thoughts and feelings I have. That's no life well lived at all, and I'll probably never be able to engage in anything for a long enough time to master it. And so I think he just did a really good job of like giving me that foundation principle that if you're going to start something, anything, give it 18 to 24 months, like of relentless activity on one task. Because if you don't do that, everybody fails at new stuff in the first 12 months. There's very few people that are earning 6 figures in real estate in the first 12 months. I mean, very, very, very. And so you just can't quit if things aren't what you thought they're going to be and you're in the courage phase of the 4 C's. You have to give it 18, 24 months of relentless activity.
I've got a couple of questions. What was the book you mentioned?
So there was a book called Living Fearless by Jamie Winship. There's another book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And then there's this book. And then there's an old book that if you're gonna read this, I don't think I'd recommend reading that, How to List and Sell Real Estate. It's just funny because I got that up in the state at like an old real estate brokers. It's probably closed now. And it's like an old book that had on a shelf that I took and it's I was starting my real estate career. But there's been better books for instance.
What are the last two, phases? So the first is launch.
Yes, now you gotta come back for part two.
I totally missed that one.
Okay, launch, perseverance, viability, and scale.
Viability.
Yeah, most of us will, will either launch and some of us, will quit too early. Many of us will stay for perseverance for our whole career, which is totally fine. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you can get some leverage in and balance it a little bit. But then viability is where you start taking some hats off. Anything else?
No, thank you.
All right, guys, I appreciate you guys very, very much.
Everybody, we got pizza, stromboli, and salad in the back for the pro coaching team. We have some pizza, salad, and stromboli in the back conference room. Want to get you together just for 2 minutes and meet Chris and our new pro coach. Cool. Thank you.
None of them were work. Like none of them were.
Good.
Like I thought maybe 4 hours. And I said, I'm on vacation this week. I'll reach back out to you on Monday this week. Okay.
Yeah, I remember, I still remember being on the beach. And like this is the big stuff, I'm trying to get back on the beach. And this woman was going right in the course and one person. And I said I'm on vacation, an hour on the phone.
And then because you look at it as, well, I'm not gonna lose that piece of business because I don't know if I have enough business. So then I take that, and that line ends up being the worst line.
Oh,
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
See you too. Hey, Tracy, Michael, thank you.
Sometime after the 6th. Next week. I went after that, but I got to cut some.
Doesn't matter.
Right now, I don't have much. I did.
Not jumping everything.
I'm actually.
He's like, are you willing to?
Gonna be getting a surgery.
So
So how that's all gonna work out exactly, I don't know. You know.
Right, cause like I got this, I got a referral yesterday that I talked to a phone, set up.
But yeah, so
Now I'm like.
right now I'm kind of in a weird spot where.
Because
I wasn't
he's not my
worried.
area,
He's
he's in northern York, and I'm like, I used to live there, if I still lived in Dillsburg, I would,
I mean,
but like now, I'm like.
and it's got.
40 kids across
It's got a
traffic.
little better.
Now,
No,
the show house is guy that's.
and,
250,000.
So at least now I.
You know, it's like 25%, somebody else.
But,
Yeah, I'll run for it.
but yeah, so the only thing I have
That's
right
what
now, I've got
There's a buyer.
two.
Because otherwise,
I
what
got
am I gonna do?
one listing, one buyer. They're both.
Tuesday, to see a house.
The one closes on the 15th.
I'm gonna be like, what, give it,
We're not
give it
ready
to
for
practice here.
It's a weird situation. It's a mobile home on its own land, and the lady who owns the
For
property
$4,000.
never retired with the house title. So she's trying to get that done, which. Yeah, I'm waiting for, well, so we hired an attorney,
Best thing was, he said sometimes I like.
which,
It's my intelligence.
whatever, but they require that we physically verify.
So
fill
I
out a
was
form,
gonna
send
show
it
house
to
map,
them.
they put a deadline for an
And
offer
that's-
at 6.
It's a weird situation. So I never had it before either. I didn't know.
That's fine.
maybe I'll retire in
See the
But,
house, and if they would
but,
like it, then send it in before the
but
deadline.
basically,
But he said.
the lady finally just said,
However,
the heck
I'm
with
not
it.
sure how
We'll
it
give you
will
$5
help,
pay.
as I didn't know what-
Goes up to the Penn
For
State
the last
Police
time
Barracks,
that I
and
was
I need you
for
guys to do this
170K.
because
So he's
it
not.
wasn't getting done.
He said he is. The
Attorney's
last
like,
time
well,
I
if we
was
can't
there,
get
it
a
was
cop to
for
do this, then we have to
170K.
file.
Christy, are you gonna join us back here? No? Okay.
First thing he needs to do. is
So,
he needs to reach
um,
out to his lawyer and get his
So she
case
finally went up
because
to
you can't
the
send
police
offers
barracks
without
and
the
got over her cage.
Second,
Said a cop out.
Oh,
Yeah.
when you
So,
leave out.
and they filled out the
Tonight at
paperwork
5, so we have
and
to move it
is,
earlier
I guess,
than
yeah.
6:45, because the
so we're.
deadline's
at
at
least
6.
there's-
The house only been on the market for.
Which is,
That's good.
well, it is good because
That's the other thing.
the way we have been working with this bar for a while,
141.
we probably got the deal.
And yes, we need to update it for your approval and then.
But,
you know, we will-
but basically, when I wrote the
That's what we
contract,
do for your approval.
you know,
And
we,
then, I would
we
even
made,
reach out to the
the
agent.
condition that,
Find
they
out
would
how
do a
many
rent.
offers are.
He only has one.
Okay.
And that's, and then,
Occupancy, part
Yeah.
of,
so he just responded and said, I don't have. a
pre-settlement possession. There it is.
So that means. he has-
Pre-settlement. So basically the deal, we asked him how long. We don't know, if it's a month, if it's 3 months. we don't know.
So he doesn't actually.
So we wrote the contract, it's closed in 3
I
months.
would ask him, would you
And
like,
then,
would you like?
and then did a pre-settlement possession on the same day as closed. Say, look, if for some reason it takes you longer than 3 months, my client can't be with us. We're not going to be, and they agreed to that. So after some.
Oh, really?
Kickback. I'm like, they're like, well, she's like, well, my client really doesn't like the idea of being a landlord. And I'm like, well, my client really doesn't like the idea of being.
Yeah, he's like, I know the wife.
You know,
Yeah, that's probably not realistic.
yeah, you know, and I was so mad about it because here's a house that realistically shouldn't have even been on the market.
Yeah, he's not down there,
You know,
right?
'cause
He's a
you
PF.
don't have
Like, he's a
internet.
But
So,
Show him.
so,
And I would say.
and it's 3 months out
Did you say about?
for needs.
He said, let me see if I can get.
No
him to
guarantee.
check.
Say, but ask, I would
And we
say-
gave her full price, no inspection.
See if he's local.
And I get kicked back about not wanting to be a renter.
Yeah, it seems like it would work and do like this.
I told the agent, what?
And then Lindsay
I-
said.
Because
I can get to Holloway.
we gave them everything they could ever hope
Is
for.
that